Andrea, thank you for being here. I'm really glad that you're able to feel that this is a platform which you can speak and use your voice to empower yourself and make the community aware of how you more than survived. And we're going to go through those questions and some of what you have identified with as far as how you embody resilience and how you see yourself continuing to strengthen in areas where you are more than your experiences and in other areas which you want to share where you're also struggling and vulnerable, which also gives the character of your survival so much inspiration for the community. Okay. So when did you first realize that the life you were living was not the one that you wanted on your journey?
I guess to give into some background, struggling with just physical or domestic abuse as well as drug abuse for over 6 years and trying to raise a family wasn't ideal, right? So fast forwarding it to year 6, living the abuse at its peak or at its highest and seeing a reflection of a person that I no longer wanted to be. The moment where the fun was over, in a way of saying it. The moment where you're not having fun, you're just hiding now, and you're in fear, and you're even scared of yourself and the person you're turning into. And the sadness of not recognizing yourself, or just knowing you just completely lost who you are and have no clue who that person is anymore. That's really what drove me to go and make changes. Understanding that I had to sustain myself and my daughters. Most importantly, fix whatever damage I had caused or neglect, just everything drove me to just snap out of it.
When you say that you snapped out of it, was there a process within that? Was there an epiphany, a tipping point for you where everything changed? And what was that thought? If it was a thought, if it was an action coupled with an idea that, wow, this is not who I am and I don't want this.
Yeah, there was a really rough week that I remember where I saw my husband not being able to function anymore. We were getting high in our room, and all of a sudden everything had to get shut. The TV was off, the phones were off, everything was off, the lights were off, everything, because he could swear that there was somebody outside looking into our room. And I remember just laying there ducking under the bed because he told me to do that, realizing that what is happening? Either I'm not high enough, or this is bonkers. Like he's not okay. Days pass, and again, the paranoia. He's rambling up and down the hallway, and I'm just standing there freaking out because I'm not at his level anymore. And I don't even know why. Literally, I'm probably as high as he was. But the moment that he started just losing it and got out of the house and went to our neighbor's house and popped his tires. This was at probably 3 a.m. and ran back in and said, I just did that because I know you're over there talking to him. And I panicked. I thought, what are you talking about? As you can imagine, the police were called. He was sitting in a towel because he got completely naked. And he wouldn't answer the door. And I ran to the girls' room and shut the door and locked it. And I stayed there. And I remember our neighbor texting me and asking me if I was okay to answer the door because the police were there. And I told her I can't, and I'm not going to get out of the room. I don't feel safe enough to do that. And she said it was okay, that they were going to keep knocking. Finally, he opened the door, and the police came to the door of the room, and I asked them, like, just be quiet, because I didn't want the girls to wake up and see their dad that way. So I walked out, and they explained to me that he had been doing meth, and if I was aware, and I lied out of my butt. And I said, I didn't know he was doing that. And then I realized the shame that I felt, right? The shame that I didn't want to be a junkie. I didn't want to be a woman who lived in fear. I didn't want to be able to not have the girls live a life that was worthy of them. So more days passed. Our landlord obviously kicked us out after that fiasco, told us you have till the end of the month to move out. I explained to my husband, dude, we're getting kicked out. And he was like, no, you're lying. You just don't want to help pay the rent. You just want to leave. Things got so out of hand that I just said, okay, fine. It's my fault. I don't want to be here anymore. While I was packing to move out, I had about a week and a half to pack my life. I was trying to find a rehab center for him. Trying to figure out what to do to not leave him just stranded with nothing. I was still using, because that was the only way that I was able to connect with him at that point. And when the date came, I had a U-Haul parked in front of the house. My family came, packed everything with me, and I left to Victorville. And I didn't look back. And essentially that was my first step to truly owning myself and my actions. Yeah, he was pissed. He hated me. He said, I was taking everything from him, that I was ruining everything. And that was fine. It broke me, but that was fine. And he left to go live with his mom, and I was with mine. And that week was the pivotal week that I knew this couldn't continue. Otherwise, we would end up killing each other, or things would have gotten worse.
Do you identify with having any kind of spiritual awakening or even experience that led you out of where you were headed, a very different road than the road you're on today?
Yeah, I heavily believe in the power of God and his influence. Like, there was so many times where I surrendered and found that lift and found the strength. And I don't think there was any other way of putting it. The immense power of prayer got me through everything.
At what point did you, that you can describe, that was your spiritual breakthrough, to break through to the person you say you were always meant to be and the life you were always meant to have?
There's a friend I have. Her name is Annie. She called me one day when I was in Victorville, and she was just checking in, asking me how everything was, if I was okay, if I need anything. And she asked me, can I pray for you? And I said, yes, let's do it. Her words, it made the change for me. Yeah. What she said determined that change had to happen, and I was going to be okay. That was a conversation that left me awakened. And I found the strength to figure everything out and own and value myself. But doing it hand in hand with God, not alone.
So you identified with the more aspect of the more than.
Yeah.
Because of God.
Yeah, she jokes about it now, saying that it took my spiritual village to hurt us all in this direction. And I don't disagree, because if I hadn't relied on my faith or God, there was going to be no one else that I was going to rely on, because there was at that time no way I would have, opened up entirely to my family and asked for them to help me, because I was like, they're going to have their opinions. They're going to think this and the other. They might kick me out because they're not going to approve of the things I did. And I couldn't risk anything like that at that time. When I moved to Victorville and I was getting sober, I remember going through all of that detox and my mom thinking I just had a stomach flu, because I wasn't going to tell her otherwise. She was just, you must have ate something that made you sick. And I was like, yep, I did. And it was a week and a half or 2 weeks of just misery. But I got through it. And I figured out that the best way was to deceive everybody and figure out how to make up my own storyline so that I wouldn't have the judgmental eyes or the pity or anyone telling me that, oh, poor you can't do it. Because I couldn't handle that. I needed people to be around me telling me that, everything's going to be fine. You're okay. You're going to get through this and we're going to figure it out. So that was convenient for me.
If you could say a few words or something to the Andrea who was struggling and felt like she didn't make it and who didn't see the light, what's something that you can tell her now, having gone through it all, having been successful, continuing the path, embodying this strength that you found through God? What are some words that you could say to her now?
That Andrea still lives very presently in myself. There's days where, I'll get one of those flashbacks or just memories come back where I remember, the things that I did or the things that he did. And I don't get angry anymore. I get annoyed, because I've always been a very determined and strong person. And I just get annoyed at the fact that I let things like that happen to me. And I know that could be super relatable, right? Any woman can say, I shouldn't have let that happen. I should have been this or the other. But if I was, talking to that Andrea, I would tell her, it's fine. You're going to get through it. That's nothing. You're going to go through worse and you're going to get up. Just stand up and you're okay. Because yeah, I can easily just recall how evenly the playing field was. Like there was an instant where I was working and he was tired of seeing me on my computer. So he grabbed the computer and smashed it on my face. And I turned around and punched him. There was that easily of an instinct of me to not care. Like, you're going to go do that? Fine, I'll do it harder. Which is why I understood and I knew my strength. It's just having the balls to walk away that I feel that's the hardest part. For a lot of women that I've interacted with or talked to, I can see that being the hardest part. Because I know for me, literally picking my things up and leaving was something I couldn't even think as a possibility. I couldn't imagine, like, can I even do this? without him doing something worse? Can I even? But when I started to do it and I realized that I own this power, this is me. I am going to stand my ground and be firm. What is he going to do about it? He knows how hard I can punch him. That would be my thought process. He knows I could easily figure out a way to get myself out of it. But I didn't think like that all the time. It took a lot for me to understand that there's no way this guy's stopping me. There's no way. Even though I loved him, even though I wanted him to be okay, even though I didn't want the girls to not have their dad 24/7. It was beyond that at that point. So I think owning your power and taking the step to leave makes the biggest change and the biggest difference.
What do you hope your children learn as they have seen bits and pieces of this, been exposed to this chaos, the trauma?
Yeah, for them it was, 6 years and some change of just too much for a kid to be seeing, right? Arguments, fights, and threats, right, from each other. It was to the point where I know that if I didn't start on damage control right away, we wouldn't be able to have conversations with them either. They would be just always sheltered and on the defensive and wouldn't trust us, you know? I feel like having them in therapy, being able to validate their memories and, being able to say, yes, that happened and I'm sorry, was a big thing. Even though they were smaller, the kids, it shaped them. And I'm still trying to reprimand and fix all of that because it's not something that has gone away. They're holding on to the past more than I and Jose. There's no way that they were able to do all the work that we did as adults, right? And move on or just repair. They still have a journey for themselves with our help. But I think the most important part for them was us owning up to all of that with them and being as transparent as we have been. Because I didn't ever want them to think that they imagined it or that never happened, or give them the illusion that those memories are not something that should be remembered, because it will shape them. But I just want it to be in a way where they're empowered versus taking it as something detrimental. And I really don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just trying to work towards that. And hopefully that works.
Do you feel that there was any broken trust between you and your children? And if so, yeah, where do you see you repairing your relationship and being that parent and gaining their trust back now, today? How are you doing that?
Initially, I think it was like a culture shock for them. I went from, being in my room, getting high, neglecting them. I would feed them, have them watch TV, shower them, do all the things that I had to do, but I didn't spend quality time with them. So being sober and being with my parents, it was like a 360 for them. They had my unconditional attention and they just didn't know what to do with it. They were suspicious. They didn't understand why all of a sudden now they were so used to their independence and getting things done on their own, but the trust was broken, especially with my oldest. She took on this role of, I have to take care of my little sister, or I have to make sure she's quiet or she's around, or that she doesn't go bother her mom and dad. Like, there's this role she took, I'm aware of. And now that she's older and she has, younger siblings, um, I've taken it upon myself for her to live her childhood, right? You have zero responsibility with these little ones. I don't need you to be a mom. I need you to be a big sister and just have fun. Pushing that, I think, is helping repair a little bit at a time, at least, where and I'll get comments from family, she's old enough to help you. I don't care. I've had more children because I wanted a bigger family, and we made that decision. But I also wanted to focus and make sure that she was going to live a piece of her childhood that she didn't get while we were away. So building that and ensuring that I hold my end, and of course with rules, and you have a curfew, this or the other, but not stopping her from discovering herself and figuring out her own and having fun with her friends. And the same thing goes with my other kid. Like, you want to do these? Let's do this. But not giving them that sense of they have to be the parent. I think that's how I help fix the trust, letting them be kids.
How is your relationship with your children today?
I mean, it's crazy. There's 4 of them, but I'm present, which is not something I could say. It's like doing parenthood all over again, because I'm not part-timing it. If that makes sense. I'm involved in everything 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I just, it feels good to do that and make sure everyone is fine and make sure that they all have what they need, and there's not any piece of me that's missing because of it. I feel whole when I do that.
Why do you suppose you feel whole?
I guess I would say the guilt, right? The guilt is gone. I've taken the responsibility of what I should have done a long time ago, and in full force. But not only that, I've been able to find myself. I've been able to have a passion and find happiness in everything besides, all the crazy of a day to day is still fun. I'm still happy every day.
One last question. What are you most proud of right now about
Doing
yourself?
this. This is something I didn't know I was going to be able to do, right? Um, being so open about something that I try to keep to myself for a long time, but also being able to say that, I was there in a dark place and then I'm not anymore. And not once did I lose my kids. Not once did they need or miss something. They always had what they needed. Well, at least material wise, right? Um, being able to say that, I think, and then finding a partner who was able to do it with me, the good and the bad, without any regard, or just having the boss to say, we're in it, and we're going to get out together. That I'm proud of. I'm proud of him.